Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. Hope you guys can hear me okay. Just making sure all my audio stuff is working here. If you can just give me a quick thumbs up if you can hear me okay, and you can see the screen, that would be awesome to kick off the day, and the week, actually, for that matter. Good morning, good morning. Thank you all for the audio test. Appreciate it. It's going to be another busy week. It always is busy, right? So it kind of feels a bit redundant to say that, but it is scheduled to be a busy one. So we'll get started here in just a second. We're going to start with a mystery chart this morning. A mystery chart. A mystery chart, yep. And I'll show you, well, I'll let you guys guess what it is in a minute. So we'll get started with that in a minute as well. Let's see here, 2 minutes past top of the hour. Okay, yeah, let's get started. It's ready to go. It's time to go. So, all right. Notepad is ready. Good morning. Happy Monday. It's the 24th of March. Just a few trading days left in the month of March here before we finish off the month at the end of this week. There is going to be a decent amount of economic activity, certainly a lot of economic activity. No, a decent amount of economic data this week. I think the PCE data on Friday might weigh a bit heavier than other things, but we'll have to see. Obviously, that's always a bit of a fluid picture. We are certainly going to get plenty of headlines coming out of the White House as usual, so that's something that is actually driving equity markets higher this morning. We've been talking about the potential for that pretty much all of last week. Hopefully, you're able to tune in here and get positioned. We were long some futures on the equity side, and those are up about 1.6% this morning. And I'll show you guys how we finished off last week, because there were some clues, I think, late Friday as to what we might see. There's a lot of headlines, a lot of chatter, I should say, not actually headlines, but chatter. Let me make a note. A lot of chatter on Twitter and some conversations I had with trading desks on Friday that we might get some marginal positive news out of the White House as relating to tariffs, and that's kind of what we got, or at least chatter. That's why equity markets are up this morning. So we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about the VIX. I have a gold update. I do want to quickly touch on Bitcoin, the S&P 500, in just a second, but I want to start with a mystery chart. And what you're looking at here is a daily chart. Now, I'm going to ask this question. How many people in here, just based on purely technicals, and maybe you've studied sort of basic technical analysis, think this is a bullish chart, and how many think this is a bearish chart? Type in bull or bear, and if you have any guesses what this chart is, you can type that in as well. So we get some participation here to start off the week. I should also say, by the way, this is our morning show, Set the Market. Serge Berger here from thestudytrader.com. We can spend the next 10 to 15 minutes going through the top things on my notepad. But again, any guesses on, first of all, do you think this is bullish? Do you think it's bearish? Type in bull or bear. And if you happen to have an idea of what this might be, I know that's potentially a bit of a stretch, but any clues as to what this might be, type in a ticker symbol and let me know. But I'm getting some good answers. Yeah, so perfect. So based on technical analysis 101, this would essentially be a bullish chart, right? So based on very simple technical analysis, one could deem this a cup and handle chart, right? This is like Investors Business Daily, very basic stuff, and that would be the addition. Obviously, Mike is saying it could go either way. I agree, but it is essentially a bullish chart through the lens of very basic technical analysis. Again, you've got the way you want to look at it is is sort of this, right? So you've got this big rounding consolidation period. Then you've got this cup forming, which is the cup of the cup and handle formation. And then ultimately the resolution to that would be to the upside, right? This is very basic technical analysis. Obviously, until it has broken above resistance, it hasn't broken above resistance, right? So you can see we have a resistance there, we have resistance here, and we have resistance right here as well. So you've got this very clear level, which is around, on this chart, around $28, maybe a touch higher on a daily closing basis, right? So this is very clearly textbook. It's hard to argue. It's very, very simple textbook cup and handle. Whether it breaks to the upside or not, I don't know. What if I told you what this actually is, right? Now, I will actually, before I go to that and tell you what this is, let me tell you, there are a ton of charts like this out there right now, ranging from materials stocks to a lot of, let me put it this way. It's such a wide array of things that looks like this. Basically like a ton of stuff except for Max 7 look like this, right? Which tells you exactly where the money's coming from and where it's going. We've been talking about this. In fact, over the weekend, I actually went through my notes and I looked at when I first started talking about last year, when we might see that money, that we are seeing money come out of tech stocks, mega cap tech stocks. And it was April of last year. I first started talking about it. And now people are waking up to it. So that's, and by the way, I should mention tech stocks did actually top about 2 months after that last year. So, some of the better family offices I speak with and some pension funds, they're forward thinking. They were starting to scale down or rebalance their mega cap tech stocks last spring into the summer. And it takes a lot of these guys 3 to 9 months to do that, right? So now that they've done it, now you have other people doing it. So, and that's why a lot of people are now seeing that the mega cap tech stocks are not going higher. So what is the chart? This is actually an ETF by the ticker symbol GXG. Ticker symbol GXG. And what is it? It's actually Colombian stocks. Now, most people will be automatically turned off by this right now. But I'm here to tell you, and I ran the correlations over the weekend along with a quantitative buddy of mine. The correlations of this to pretty much all the other stuff I just mentioned is extremely positive and extremely high and quite frankly, quite bullish. So there's also economic acceleration taking place in case you care about the fundamentals, which you should. Ultimately, if this breaks higher, this is, you can see a 20% run here. And again, the money's coming out of NVIDIA, the money's coming out of Microsoft, to a lesser extent out of, Yahoo ideas like, whatever, some of those AI stocks like SoundCloud or SoundClown or whatever, SoundHound or something ridiculous. Not a bad company, but the fact that people are chasing it tells you that we're still in a gambling bubble. So that's where the money's coming from, and it's going to pretty much everything else. So that's, just want to quickly share this with you for some perspective. So that's number one. Second thing I want to now look at is just take a quick step back and go to the S&P 500. Now, the S&P 500, as you know, has had a bit of a 10% drawdown, and I want to just talk a little bit about this because, and I actually made a video on this that's going to, I think, air tomorrow, that you can see this as well. So if you look at the current, and this has made the headlines over the past week or so, if you look at the current mood out there, the mood is actually very bearish. And so a lot of people, including CNBC personalities, think this is a bullish thing. So we actually reached one of the largest bearish readings in terms of investor sentiment for years going back years in February. 60% of people were bearish, according to the survey. The question is that I think people should ask themselves, how is it possible that with just a 10% drawdown, we are seeing people get this bearish? So everyone out there, or not everyone, a lot of people think this is essentially a bullish sign. I will say this, we have, here at the Study Trader, we have a lot of insight in how the retail investor is thinking, and I see it every single day. We have never seen this much people in the market. Forget all in the same stocks. That's why we have a wealth effect problem, right? So there's actually studies being published right now that show very clearly how much the wealth effect is that we're seeing essentially as a result of mega cap tech stocks going down. People are now losing money, and they don't know what to do with it because they haven't seen that in a while. But I think the bigger problem is actually that a lot of people in the market, because more people than ever are in the market, a lot of people are in the market now that have never been in the market before, so they have no experience of how the markets actually really work, to be honest with you. So because of that, we are seeing a lot of people very quickly turn bearish when they really just don't know what to do with their emotions. So I actually don't think this is a buy signal, like on its own, and I would really warn against people using this single factor input as a buy signal. So just wanted to quickly point that out. Now, let's look a little bit at what happened last Friday and see if we can make some sense of all this. So if you were in the Trade Ops chat room on Friday, you will notice a couple things took place. First of all, I walked everyone through the gap closing, and this was yesterday's on Friday's down gap, and we talked about it. We walked you guys through it in the Trade Ops chat room, and you guys saw that gap close, so that was a really nice trade, and then we saw the market actually holding up really well. In fact, if you were in the Trade Ops chat room, this is what we did in real time. You can see we posted it there and there and there. We talked about it closing in real time. And then sure enough, it did. And so that was a really nice trade, nice cash flow heading into the weekend. What, however, also happened as a result of this, or another way of looking at it, I guess, is to look at this and say, you know what? The market held up rather well, given some of the other sort of, more bearish headlines out there. And you saw that in the market on Friday afternoon and throughout Friday, with it making a series of essentially higher lows. We had the morning low, then we had a higher low take place, and then another higher low, and then a rally in the last few minutes of the day, right? So that's what we saw on Friday. And so when I was listening to the wires and people that I spoke with, it was very clear that there was chatter out there being recognized by algorithms. And remember, markets are largely driven by algorithms, that we might get some marginally positive news over the weekend. And we did. And this morning, if you look at the futures, you can see, I can quickly show you what like S&P futures look like. You can see we're basically more or less at the highs now. This is, I think, a 20-minute delayed chart, but it's more or less the same where it was 20 minutes ago. And you can see throughout the overnight session, futures have been pushing higher. So we closed. This is U.S. equity futures S&P E-mini contract. So you can see we are up about 1.2% on the S&P 500 futures, a bit more on NASDAQ futures, and so that's kind of how I read the news. Now, the question, of course, is how much higher does this have to go? And I think what we need to see is we need to see the VIX be able to settle down below 20. If we want to have a rally up towards, let's say, 5,900 or so, maybe 58, 50, whatever. It's now we're pinching pennies. We probably need to see the VIX, the vol targeting machines, basically be able to push keep the S&P below 20. And right now, this morning, the VIX is down 1.9%. That's a rounding error, but again, it's below 20. So the more we can see we'll get to crypto in a second, the S&P, Bitcoin, excuse me. The more we can see the VIX stay below 20, the more the S&P has potential to go towards, again, 5,900. And then, I would expect from a timing perspective, this to be something that would probably run out by the time we get into the earnings season at kind of at the latest. Next week, we've got this sort of reciprocal tariffs news, so that'll be something everyone's going to freak out about in one way or another. But I think if the VIX stays below 20, this will be key. In the meantime, a daily close, and I mentioned it last Friday, above 5,700 on the S&P or 570 on the SPY is what we're looking for here in order to get a signal that we could have a bit of a further relief rally. I think ultimately we make lower highs, and then we'll probably go and make lower lows again. But again, very fluid situation this year. Now, let's look at Bitcoin quickly. We are experiencing a situation in Bitcoin where if you have the TSD trender momentum indicator, you notice that hopefully, that we received a momentum sell/short signal on the 4th of February, and Bitcoin then dropped as much as 21-ish%. We don't have a new momentum buy signal yet, but I'm watching it very closely because if we do, it would add further credence to a potential oversold bounce in risk assets in general, and potentially, as a result of liquidity coming back into the market. So that's something I'm watching very, very closely. On the daily chart, we're still basically no man's land. I would be a little bit careful drawing lines too thinly on Bitcoin. It's still a volatile asset, but I think, we have a potential here. And if you look at this, it really looks like the S&P, just in case people wonder, if I were to overlay the S&P, you can see it's really the same idea. Let me just quickly there. So you can see the positive correlation between Bitcoin and the S&P 500. So it's really the same chart. And I'm hopefully this is helpful for you guys that are still kind of new to the markets or anything inside of 10 years. I would expect that to be new to the markets because you haven't seen a cycle yet play out. So hopefully this is helpful, folks. I'm going to call it a moment here. But so we've gone through the mystery chart, GXG. It's an interesting one. We have gone through the S&P 500, the VIX, right? I give you the levels there. And of course, Bitcoin now here on this chart. There's a bunch of buy signals we're getting this morning on the Market Rover. If you are an Inner Circle and Market Rover member, we'll talk about that inside of the chat room here shortly. We also got a new momentum buy signal in Boeing after last Friday's deal announcement. So we'll see how that plays out, but we'll continue that conversation inside the Trade Ops chat room here in just a few minutes. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning. Thanks for being here. Please, very, very important, subscribe to the channel, share with anyone you can. It's very important to us. Otherwise, we have to stop doing the morning show. But also that way you get alerted in real time when we go live. Give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning on Tuesday. If you're a Trade Ops member, I will see you guys in the rooms in just a couple of minutes. See you soon.